So as we move towards the conclusion of this time in worship together, it's really important in our calling as pastors and as humans and Christians in the world is to also proclaim hope, especially in these of our toughest and most painful moments that we've experienced, whether it's as Buffalonians or people of the world. We want to make sure that you hear that we are proclaiming hope, and then we want to make sure that you become that church that proclaims hope for the world around you. So I want to share with you a gospel lesson today from John 14. Jesus answered these disciples and he said, "Those who love me will keep my word, and my Father will love them, and we will come to them and make our home with them. Whoever does not love me does not keep my words, and the word that you hear is not mine, but it's from the Father who sent me. I have said these things to you while I am still with you, but the Advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything and remind you of all that I have said to you. So my peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. So do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid. You have heard me say to you, I'm going away and I am coming to you. If you loved me, you would rejoice that I am going to the Father, because the Father is greater than I. And now I have told you this before it occurs, so that when it does occur, you may believe." Friends, that's the hope that Jesus proclaims to us today, to remind us of this incredible relationship between the Father and the Holy Spirit, to remind us that we are part of something bigger. We are part of God's story. We all need to have things proclaimed to us in these times. What are some things that we need to proclaim to the world today?
So as people of faith, we need to say resolutely that goodness is stronger than evil, that love is stronger than hate. We know how the story ends, that tomb was empty. So may we not just proclaim hope, but may we live like we actually believe the Easter story. May we take chances. May we free our brothers and sisters. Folks, thoughts and prayers must become loving action, because we know the end of the story.
I love that. The thoughts and prayers must become loving action. And the action is what happens in the relationships between us. I have come to be convinced that Christ and the love of God, it's all in our relationships. And where that love, where Christ particularly shows up, is when those relationships get broken. When there is when there's pain and suffering happening, when we are broken, that Christ is there, knitting us in ways that bring us back together. We can't do that on our own. We're too stubborn. We're too set in our ways, and so in those places where there is brokenness and hurting, that's the incarnation. That's where God shows up in our own humanness. So I find a lot of hope in that.
Yeah. Thanks be to God for that. I find hope in reminding ourselves in the midst of loss, especially, that there is still the light of Christ there. Evil cannot overwhelm it. The Gospel of John tells us that right in the very beginning of it. We have, as part of our worship today, these 10 lights in back of us, reminding us of the light that has been in our lives, brothers, sisters, these folks that we prayed for today, people that have been taken too early because of hatred and racism. But in the midst of them stands another light, a little taller and maybe even a little brighter, which is the light of Christ. We call it in the church a Christ candle. We're reminded of it when we are baptized, when we celebrate all of the incredible rituals and things that we do, that Christ's light is always there. And that's what we need to be reminded of today. That this God who says to us, I give you peace, gives differently than the world. This Christ gives differently than the world. Our job as church is to give differently into the world now, and not let the last few days of terror and racism be the answer, but to let the light of Christ triumph over the pain that we are seeing today.